Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Club Junkie podcast. Another week back from the PGA show. I'm a little less tired, a little less sore. The feet, the back, all that don't hurt near as much. Takes me a lot longer to recover now that I'm in my 40s, so but it's all good. Been a good week, busy. Been a busy week trying to catch up from being out for a week, but back at it and hitting some clubs, having a blast, doing questions with you guys. It's been awesome. So before we get into today's episode, I just want to let you know this episode brought to you by Titleist and the brand new Pro V1 and Pro V1X golf balls. We all aspire to outperform the player we were yesterday. This takes practice, commitment, and trusting your golf ball will perform the way you need it to on every type of shot. The new Titleist Pro V1 and Pro V1X are the most advanced yet and will help reward your best swings like never before. Both models are longer, even more consistent, and feature unrivaled control. Pro V1 is the best combination of distance, spin, and feel in the game and delivers a more penetrating flight, while the Pro V1X flies higher and spins more in the short game while still giving you low spin on longer shots to maximize your distance. Find out more about the new Pro V1 and Pro V1X, including which is the best choice for your game, at Titleist.com. So, I was in the booth, Titleist booth last week. Got to see tons of Pro V1, Pro V1X, all that on display. I've got a couple boxes of Pro V1X here, the white boxes. I think I may have a couple more coming, which would be exciting. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go back to the Pro V1X this year. So I got a few of those. Excited to hit them and try them out for this year. Unfortunately, a little snow on the ground, so not gonna get out and not gonna pound a bunch of Pro V1s into a snowbank. So they're gonna sit down here until we thaw out. But it's coming. I mean, it's already in February. For us here in Michigan, Detroit, February is going to be cold. It's going to be a little snowy. By the time we get to March, we start to thaw out a little bit. By the end of March, we'll get like one random kind of snow shower that lasts a day. And then, by the time April hits, we're pretty much getting to the point of being able to play some golf. And I'm already super excited. Thursday Night League. Commissioner already reached out to me and another guy, asking kind of what we thought about a few things. And gets me excited. We might expand the league, might add a couple guys. So who knows? But it gets me excited talking about it, and knowing that is coming up this spring to get back to some Thursday Night League, and show up every week with a different combination of clubs in the bag. So and usually one or two guys will sit there and ask me, what the heck, what do you got new? What's in the bag this week? So it'll be fun. I'm excited to get out there. But right now, kind of stuck indoors, hitting balls in the range and in the domes and all that stuff. And it's unfortunate. It's not great, but it is what it is, and I'm going to keep doing it because there's way too much product out here to not. So, I want to thank everybody for yesterday and the Q&A we did. I do a lot of question and answer little sessions on my Instagram for the show, or the show's Instagram. If you want to follow along at Club Junkie Pod. Had a bunch of great questions. I know everybody out there, all of you guys are super excited about new gear. I am too. It's awesome. All the questions were great. And unfortunately, I don't even have answers for some of them. Some of the stuff like, when I'm doing a review of the Ping woods, this and that, the Srixon drivers and some other stuff. And I'm getting there. I'm going to get to it. It's just a lot of stuff to hit, and I've got it going. Everything's on the list. We're going to get this stuff out there. We're going to hit it. We're going to have some fun. It's just going to take a little more time. So if it was spring, it was nicer out, I could definitely get more done. But the way we're set up now, hey, we're gonna roll with what we got. But it's been good. So got out, hit some more balls. I was out at the Dome, which again, I live on kind of the east side of Michigan. I live over the east side, and there's only a couple ranges that are really close to me. One of which, when it hits winter, they pretty much shut it down. Even though they claim they have heated tees, they pretty much shut it down. So I don't go there, and then I go to a dome that's about 20 minutes away called CJ Barrymore's, and it's actually kind of a cool place. Like, it used to be a total dump when I first moved over this way. It used to be kind of a total dump, but it was the only place you could go in the in the area in the winter. And since then, they've actually kind of fixed it up. It's kind of nice. They put in top tracer in all the bays. Which has some pretty cool things. I was hitting balls. I have my full swing monitor, which I'll get to in a minute. It was two levels, so there's a bottom level, a top level. inside the dome. So there's up and down, and it's funny. Some people will not go upstairs, like they only want to hit on on the ground floor. Which, I mean, I get, like you have more. Excuse me, you have more vertical space. If you're going to hit wedges and stuff like that. When you're on the second level, you can definitely put a wedge into the ceiling, no problem. And it's funny, people will like wait down there. Me, I don't really care. I was hitting irons. I wasn't really hitting wedges anyway. So I was, and they were pretty full. It was funny. It was like midday, like 1:30 I went, and they were packed. And there were only a couple spots open up top, so I want to grab one of those. But it's kind of cool. The Top Tracer stuff they put in is pretty interesting. They got like games and simulations. There was a guy like one or two down from me who was you were basically playing golf, like you were simulating whole holes. Like it would be like, here's a 385-yard par four. You'd hit driver, and it would basically, put where, then you'd have like an iron shot or whatever. And it didn't do putting. It actually had just like rings around the pin. And when you hit like your wedge shot or approach shot into the green, however close you were was like how many putts or whatever. Or it would be like, if you got it on the green within certain rings, you got par, bogey, birdie, whatever. So it was pretty cool looking. I've been there before. I've seen the system. I pretty much only use it as on the range setting. It's a little hit or miss. I think the numbers are slightly juiced on it. When I was hitting it, and like I said, I think I said a couple weeks ago, I was hitting it against my full swing monitor, and it seemed like the ball speed numbers were a few miles an hour higher. But it wasn't always like the carry wasn't always crazy longer. It would come up and it would say ball speed is whatever, and then I'd look on the full swing, it'd be like 5 miles an hour slower, or maybe 3 or whatever. It would vary a little bit, but it was always around that. But then you look at like total distance, and sometimes that Top Tracer would come up with like a weird number, and full swing, whatever it was, that we were hitting like a 150-yard shot. Full swing would be like 153, and that thing would be like 142, even though it had ball speed that was like 3 or 5 miles an hour faster. It didn't give you spin numbers or anything like that, so I don't know what it was calculating exactly, but it's kind of cool. It gives you something to do that's other than just pounding balls into a dome. So if you're somebody there who's not looking to like work on your game in terms of drills and things like that, well, then you have some fun stuff you can kind of do. So next time I go, maybe I might venture in and see about some of the games and skill stuff, all that. It looked pretty cool. But I was there with the full swing kit there. Now, I do to say, this was the first time I brought the kit and been upstairs. Most of the time I go in like the middle of the afternoon, I can grab a spot downstairs. There's a little more room there in terms of like behind the bay, the hitting bay. So this one, like 8 feet was probably really stretching it in terms of how far I had the kit behind the ball. If it was 8 feet, it was, to the inch. The first few shots it wasn't. I had to like move it behind a table, and it was a whole weird setup. There's just not as much room up there, and I got some weird numbers that came out of it, and I've never gotten those numbers before, even in that dome. So I gotta think it was just the fact that I wasn't far enough away. There would be like a couple times where I'd hit like 2 or 3 balls, and it would just come up with like a 5-yard carry number. It wouldn't get club head speed. It wouldn't pick up a few things. And not to say that they were great shots, but they definitely went further than 5 yards. But like I said, up there's just not as much room, and it seems to be a lot more traffic for whatever reason. Like there's some screens at each end that have like the daily stats of like who's hit the longest drive, who's got the most points in some of the games or whatever. And it seems like people walk up or around there a lot to go check those screens out for some reason. So I was a little nervous about moving it too far back just because so many people were walking back there. So I got numbers for hitting clubs today, but I don't want anybody to get too hung up on them because, again, and I'm not blaming the full swing kit because I don't think the setup was 100% right. So like I said, going there, I kind of now know that if I go, maybe I try to get one of the very end units or one closer to the end, where I can move it back a little bit, maybe position my bag there, and maybe there'll be a little less traffic. But we'll see. So anyway, like I said, the numbers-wise, when I throw some things out there, don't get like crazy hung up on them. And if something doesn't make like 100% or total sense in your mind, like adding things up, just know that there might have been something that was just slightly off. And again, not blaming the unit. I'm just saying, like, the setup wasn't 100% right. So anyway, today is a fun one because we're talking about 3 of the 4 Srixon ZX irons. So had ZX5, ZX7, and the forged, the Z Forged 2 out there on the range today. I also had the Cobra, the new King Tour out there as well. I think I'm going to save that for another show. I know I was somebody on there put like, hey, you should hit this, this, and this, and I was like, I don't want to make these shows too long, and very kindly, he said that he would love for the show to be a little longer. So, also a long-time listener, so truly appreciate that. Thank you. But went out and hit the ZX irons. I know these are super, super popular. Everybody's talking about these. I think ZX7, ZX5 last year were huge. I mean, I played the ZX7 for the first year it came out, almost the whole year. I had mine raw. Then I took them to a motorcycle chrome shop and had them stripped. Played them for like a full year. Ended up giving them away on the Club Junkie Instagram, which was pretty cool. Hopefully whoever won them is enjoying them. And then, played some other stuff last year, but gave those away. But I love the ZX7s. I thought they were absolutely phenomenal irons. There was like almost nothing about them that I would actually change. I mean, for me, I would say, can I make them a hair more forgiving? And then you can say, well, yeah, then just move to the ZX5. But the ZX series, whether the 5s, 7s, they were monsters. Previous version, they run for 2 years. So previous 2 years, they were monsters. They never slowed down. And now we have the Mark II version. So ZX7 Mark II, ZX5 Mark II, and then the Z Forge 2. Now there's also a ZX4 Mark II, which I do have a couple irons. I just didn't bring them with me. But I definitely will hit those as well at some point this spring. But basically there's a ZX4, ZX5, ZX7. So the 4 is the most forgiving. It's got a hollow body. And then ZX5 is going to basically be multi-piece forged. So face laser welded onto a body. It's thinner, faster, more ball speed, more forgiveness. And then ZX7, which is pretty much a one-piece forging with some tungsten in the toe. And then you get to the Z Forge 2 blade, which is just a forged blade. It's now I didn't get numbers with the blade because I just hit a few shots. So I'll talk about it at the end. I'll give you kind of my thoughts on it. And also because I was hitting 6-iron versus 6-iron with the 7 and 5, and they sent a 5-iron in the Z Forge 2. So I didn't even have, I couldn't really compare iron to iron there, but I did go hit it, and it is an absolutely beautiful iron. So yeah, I spent some good time with these irons. Like I said, super excited. I'm going to start with, I guess I'll start with the ZX7. So the ZX7 is or ZX7 Mark II. So that's what I played last year, last version was the ZX7. I put it up. I do this on YouTube if you don't know, and I just grabbed the wrong iron and shoved it in the face of the camera, and I looked down and I'm like, that's the ZX5. So anyway, ZX7, again, kind of a one-piece forged iron, really good shape, very pretty compact, a little longer heel to toe than some other forged cavity backs. One of probably the best soles out there if you play in soft conditions or if you play in or a steeper swinger. The Tour VT sole they have there is just stupid good, but really good looking iron. I mean, I think proportionally wise, really good, very minimal offset to it. The top line isn't crazy thin, it's not razor thin. I've heard a few people kind of make the comment this year when they look down at the 7 that the top line's actually a little chunkier than they would like. And I don't have my old ZX7s anymore. Like I said, I gave them away, so I don't have those to really compare. But it is a little more squared off, and it is probably a touch thicker top line than I would have thought would have came with these when I first saw them, either on tour or some of the spy shots that Greg and Andrew got from the tour, or just some of the photos that we've seen. But overall, a beautiful iron. Really simple, no real badge in the back, just some kind of silver paint. The big change this year, when you look at it, is it's got this technology called Pure Frame, which looks to add a little more mass behind the dead center of the club. And I think the Pure Frame, for them, basically, it basically enhances feel, adds a little more mass, and it's basically 80% thicker or something like that than, or 80% thicker piece of 1080 or 1020 carbon steel. So really good feel. Last year's, previous version ZX7s felt insanely soft. The first thing I'd say is softer is feel extremely soft again. Really soft. Would you say it's softer? it's probably about the same. I'm willing to bet they're pretty much the same. Solid center strikes, though, feel extremely solid, really soft. Even with the crappy range balls I was hitting, you got just a touch of a click to them. And a lot of times I hit balls with headphones, so I can't even let the sound of it lessen the feel portion. But you could feel just a touch of click, which is the crappy range balls there. A lot of times I will go hit range balls and then go and actually play with something, and the feel is even softer, even more solid. I mean, it changes when you get like a real golf ball. So even with the crappy golf balls they had there, really solid feel, really soft. You can really feel, especially on center strikes, really feel the ball kind of compress and just kind of come off the face. And not come off the face like crazy hot like a driver, but just compress, come off the face, and you just know you struck it well. Slight misses are extremely responsive. You just know right away, did you catch it a little off the toe, heel, a little high off the face, whatever it is. But overall, the sound and feel is really good. Like I said, those balls you get just a touch of a click. Willing to bet when I get out on the actual course, actual turf with a real golf ball, it's just going to be one of those just and just balls just going to go. Really pleasant to hit. I like the shape. Like I said, the top line just a hair thick. I like the slightly longer heel to toe blade length. And like I said, just a minimal amount of offset. Just very little. Maybe not so little as say the Vegas that I was hitting before, but these ones here have very little offset. So a really good look. And hitting these, like I said, great sound and feel. If you get it really far out, I mean, the first few balls I hit were basically at the very edge of the grooves. The first handful of swings I took were just ridiculously bad, just over the top, down on top of the ball, and I mean, I was hitting stuff, where it was basically almost getting into the chrome out on the toe, and it was not good. So hit the fuse for the few like that, and it's a little cooler in there. It's fine. I mean, I can still hit like a t-shirt and stuff, but it's a little cooler. You definitely got a little more vibration to the hands. So but like I said, anything you get kind of back into near the center, just outside, the miss hits seem pretty decent. I mean, there is a little bit of drop off with these as compared to like say ZX5s. Also, the lofts on these are a little bit weaker. Well, they're a little bit weaker than 5s, but they're the same as the previous version ZX7s. They play off a 46-degree pitching wedge, but they do get a little stronger as you go. Like the 7 iron's a 32, where say like a T100, I think it's 34. And the same thing as you get further up there with the ZX7s, like the 4 iron is 22, where I think it was like a 24 or something like that in the T100. So a little bit strong in the long irons. Pitching wedge 9 iron, about the same. I think the 9 iron might be a degree strong, but a little bit stronger loft, so you get a little more distance to them. Still pretty easy to launch. I felt like I was still able to get these up in the air pretty easily. When I was looking actually at my numbers, the funny thing is I kind of launched them the same as the ZX5 for whatever reason. I was hitting these, and they don't have different shafts too. Like these have Modus 120 stiffs. The ZX5s have the new KBS Tour Light. So just interesting that I averaged about the same launch. Now this one I had. When you look at the averages, I mean, I had like a 21 degree launch. This was the 6 iron, like a 21, almost a 22. It was like 21 point something, and a couple like higher 20s. And then you look at the rest of the average, and they were all like 18, 19s. When you look at the ZX5, it was all consistently more 19, 20s. So I think if you were to kind of look over a better average of shots with better balls, I still think the ZX7 is going to launch it a hair lower. For me, I'm going to think. If I went through and hit more balls and all that, I'm going to think it'll probably be about a degree different. But this is a little more smaller sampling size, so I did average out the same. Interesting enough, these actually were pretty decent. Like I said, distance-wise, I was like like showing off, like literally like going nowhere. So even though there's 6 irons, and this is usually my like 170 club, I was definitely a little behind that with all my irons. I was about 10 yards short with everything. I mean, I was hitting a bunch of different clubs, and everything was like 10 yards short than my usual carry numbers. And I'm not trying to do that to save face, because you guys know I'm a bad 9.4 handicap. I don't hit it crazy far. A 6 iron is like a 170 club. 7 iron 160. and I go down from there. And like, I'm a guy, if I can hit one 260 with the driver, 265, maybe get a little roll, I'm pretty happy. I'm not a monster hitter by any means, anything like that. And I don't hit irons very long, which is interesting. So if I ever got driver back up to my normal speeds of like 104, 105, I'm definitely a lot slower with irons. Like these are like kind of the mid 80s that I swing my irons. I just don't swing my irons very fast, and I think I just try to hit it better, I guess. I don't know. I don't really have an explanation, but I don't swing it as hard. I don't try to hit it as hard with my irons. So my irons don't go crazy far, but these are definitely lower numbers than usual. But again, I'm chalking it up to range balls and setting up the full swing kit and not its most optimal position. So with these here, and you know what? Before I get, because I'll get into this comparison of the two, but ZX7s really love the feel. I thought they felt really great. And they were pretty easy to hit. Like I said, I mean, there was definitely some fall off in terms of distance when you hit it absolutely flush. I was basically right around 160, 157, 156, 160 with these when I hit it great. When I missed it, depending on how far off I missed it, I could drop all the way down to 150. So I had some 150s and 152, 153. So there were some shots in there that when you miss the center, definitely saw a little more drop off, especially compared to the ZX5. But overall, yeah, I think it still lets you get away with some shots. Even hitting it kind of low on the face and things like that, ball still got up in the air pretty easily. I mean, it came out a little flatter, but it still was able to get up in the air. You weren't just hitting some worm burner down there that was going to hit and just release through the green. It would still allow that ball to get up in the air and have a little bit of control over it. And the ball, honestly, and this thing here, honestly, was a little bit straighter to slight fade shots with this. Compared to ZX5, where I felt that was a little bit easier to turn over. Now, a lot of that could have been a little bit of shaft, where you have a little bit lower launching, 2 or 120, a little heavier, all that. The 5, you probably, you could turn it over a little faster because it did have a little lighter shaft, a little higher launching shaft. Tip section is probably a little more active than the Modus 120. So, but overall, ZX7 really loved the feel. I know I got a question earlier today that was basically, I'm recording this on Wednesday, that was basically, are these a substantial improvement over last year's? I think it's incremental, and I don't have last year's to hit against it because I gave mine away. But I think if you look at the things they've done, Srixon was very smart with this iron. They knew ZX7 was awesome. It sold a ton. Everybody really liked it. It was basically, don't screw it up. Let's make a better iron, but let's not screw it up. Don't go crazy. Don't get away from what this iron is. Is this an iron that I think Srixon would expect somebody who has ZX7s to move into ZX7 Mark IIs? No. Maybe unless you wore them out. Maybe you got them right when they came out. You had them for 2 years. The grooves are starting to get kind of worn and stuff like that. You hit off a lot of sandy ranges or something like that. Sure, move into the ZX, the Mark IIs. I think it would be an easy move. If you're looking to move from ZX7s to ZX7 Mark IIs strictly because you think there's going to be a monster performance gain, I just don't see that happening, especially if you're fit into your ZX7s. I just don't see where the performance is going to be different enough where you're going to spend the money on the Mark IIs. Like I said, incremental changes, incremental updates, but I think that's what they needed to do with this iron because you didn't want to mess it up. It was really, really good. So don't screw it up, and I think that's exactly what they did. So, for people looking to say, to come up with the excuse for the spouse or the partner to tell them that, hey, I'm buying new irons, I don't know if you're going to necessarily, you may have to come up with something creative. I don't know if you're going to have something performance-based that will basically jump out and say, yes, you're going to have to buy another set of these irons. But really impressed with ZX7. I really like it. I kind of want a set. A couple people asked me if I'm going to get a set and turn them raw. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if I can do that. It was a couple years ago. We'll see if those guys will still make them raw for me. So, and then we moved to the ZX5. So the ZX5 is, like I said, multi-piece construction. So it's got the mainframe, face, and body. So basically, they take the body's all one piece, and then they have this face plate that is like laser welded on, and it's got a couple channels run through it that will help the flex of the face and all that, reduce hot spots, still add speed, and all that. So with multi-piece heads, Unless they're like fully foam filled or something like that, typically you don't get the same forged feel that you get out of a one piece. And I will say, yes, they still feel and sound really good, but yes, there is just a slight more click, a slight more bit of vibration, just a hair more firmness to it than the ZX7. If you're not hitting them side by side, and you go to the ZX5 and you just go and hit the ZX5s, you go to your local shop or you're going to get fit or whatever it is, and you just go hit the ZX5s, will you like the feel? Probably, yes. I would say they are a great feeling iron, especially for being a multi-piece forged iron. They definitely feel very good. If you're hitting them right side by side next to the 7s, you are going to notice that these do have just a touch more firmness and just a touch more click and impact, when you hit it. Like I said, I had headphones in, had them on, and actually had like the noise canceling going because I just kind of forgot to turn it off. So I really didn't hear much. I mean, you heard the shot. You kind of heard the shot, but you could definitely, hear just a touch more click, and you could definitely feel just that hair more firmness out of this iron. But again, if you're just hitting this iron, I think it's a great feeling iron, especially for a multi-piece. I've hit some that are substantially worse than this guy. And then in terms of looks for what this iron is, personally, I think Srixon nailed it. A little bigger footprint than the ZX7, which you would expect. A little longer blade length again, heel to toe, and just a touch more roundness out on the top of the toe. Just not quite as sharp as the ZX7, and just a little bit more offset. But again, for the iron that this is built for, the player that this is built for, which is, again, this is an iron I think you'll see in a bag of a scratch player. I think you'll see this all the way up to a 15 to 20 handicap player. It is forgiving, long, but it still offers good feel, and it has a good look to it with, a pretty minimal amount of offset. The ZX7, I would say, has minimal offset. This is pretty minimal. It's just a hair more. When you set them down, it actually is, because the top lines are basically about the same thickness. The top lines are almost identical. I would say it's a little hard to tell which is which. The 5 is just a touch bigger. When you look at the soles, the sole is definitely a little bit wider. Again, same though, Tour VT sole. So they basically, the Tour VT sole is almost like a triangle. So from leading edge down to the middle of the sole, and then back, and then it kind of slants back up towards the trailing edge. And again, if you haven't hit previous Srixon irons who have had a version of the sole for a while now, but last ZX series, whether the 7 or the 5, again, I think it's one of the better soles in golf, and especially if you play in softer conditions or you're a very steep player, which for me, I kind of get over the top and down on the ball when I start getting quick and miss it, and I get a little steep and I can take some divots. The VT sole has been pretty much as one of the best soles I've had in terms of turf interaction, especially living up here in the north, where it is never rock hard and firm. We always have some softness to the fairways. So again, really good look. The back badging I think is pretty solid, all silver. There actually is a little badge in the back for some sound and vibration dampening. I think it looks pretty good. It's just a touch of chrome. It kind of gives that. It kind of looks like the ZX7 where it's got the mass there, where it has the pure frame kind of look. I don't believe it actually has a pure frame in the back, but it kind of has that same look. Personally, I think it looks really good. I think it's pretty classy. I think it's pretty classic, and I think they've kind of nailed, like I said, nailed the shape on it. This one here, definitely more forgiving. Like I said, was a little easier to turn over. When I kind of looked at where I was hitting, my aim point was like just right of just right of this one of the big squares of the target on it, and everything I hit with the ZX7 pretty much when I hit it well went at that. Maybe fall to the right, maybe fall to the left a touch. This one here, I would actually on shots that I thought I struck pretty darn well, could almost turn it over into that into the target. It's stupid to call it a target, but it's a target. It was a little easier to turn over, and again, different shafts. Like I said, this one's got the KBS Tour Light in stiff, which is like, I think maybe 95 or 100 grams. Tour 120 is like 118, something like that. I think it's just under that. But that is kind of a low launching shaft. This is more of something that's mid-high. So this one here, that I would guess that the lower section of the shaft is a little bit more active, but definitely easier to turn over, easier to hit a little draw with. I think if you're custom fit and you're somebody who's really worried about hitting it left, if you could fit into your shaft and it's a little bit more stout, a little lower launching, there's probably going to be no problem. Sole width on these, on the 5s, a little bit wider. Nothing crazy. They're narrower than I think a lot of irons in this category are. But like I feel like these are a little bit narrower than say T200s, which this would play in the same ballpark. But it is a little wider, especially when you put it up next to the ZX7. And again, I think that's just going to offer some of the players who a little higher handicap, you get it, hit it just a hair behind. That VT sole is going to get through that turf pretty easily, pretty quickly. And while you'll still come up short, you're not going to come up woefully short or come up to the point where you're not going to carry a hazard or something like that. But forgiveness was really good. Ball speed, where you didn't have that like compression, that feeling of the ball just compressing off the face as much with the ZX5, you definitely had that feeling of the ball just rocketing off the face a little more. It really had kind of some kick to it, and especially when you were hitting shots in the center, it just kind of jumped out and went. And the ball definitely had that hotter feeling coming off the face. Launch initially felt higher. Like I said, when I go through my numbers, the launch angle ends up averaging out identical between the two. But in terms of window, looking at it, I think consistently the 5s were launching a little bit higher. And again, hitting it at one like target, you can kind of gauge where it goes up and what ring you were kind of hitting it next to out of the target. And this definitely had a little bit of higher launch to it. But overall, super impressive. I mean, realistically, hitting these two, I kind of want a combo set. I kind of want to run 4, 5, 6 in the 5s, and then run 7 through pitching wedge in the ZX7s. I think it'd be an awesome combo. I think they blend really well. I'd have to look at if you look at the specs on it. Let's see. If you ran it to 7 iron, the 7 iron here is 31. So you are going to run into, well, not that much really, because I think the 7 iron in this is 32. Pitching wedge is only 44 off the ZX5. 4 iron is 22. So I mean, really, there's not a huge difference in lofts. Now there is a little bit of heat to the face. This thing does spin a little. The ZX5 does spin a little less, but overall, like, there's not a huge change I think that you would have to make in terms of dialing these things in. It would be right around that. It'd be the change over that 6-7. Where you're at 27 on 6 with the 27 degrees with the 6 iron and the ZX5. You're at 28. So really, I mean, you're not a huge difference. You've been the 6 a little weak, and it probably fits the gap. It's probably not going to be a whole lot of issue. And like I said, the visual, they both have kind of the satin chrome finish, and the shaping is really close. And the other like I said, thing I really like is that both don't have a ton of offset. So if you go to like the ZX5 and the long irons, it's not going to look crazy. You're not going to be looking down at a ton of offset, in your 4 through 6, and then you get to your 7 through pitch. You're kind of looking at a scoring iron type look. So overall, I think the look, the visual of it, they're going to match up really well. And I think combo setting these up could be really good. And even for the better player, going like maybe just 4 or 5 iron, in the 5, and then going down to the 6 through pitch in the 7s or something like that. I mean, and the other thing too, in the 7, they do make the approach wedge, which is pretty interesting. So if you're someone who likes to match your gap wedge or approach wedge, whatever you want to call it, you want to match it to your set, they make the 8 wedge in the 7s and the 5s, which is pretty cool. And then also, I haven't hit the 4s yet, but I did take them out of the box, took all the photos for the site, for golfwrx.com, when we did the launch story. And honestly, the 4s match up really well too. They've got a little more offset, but I mean, I could easily see somebody doing a combo of 4s and 5s. Put the 4 iron in, or the ZX4s in 4, 5, 6 or something, and then do 7 through in here. Or if you want to go crazy combo, how about ZX4s in the 4 iron, ZX5, 5, 6, 7 through pitch, or 7 through 7, 8 in the ZX7, and then 9 pitch in the Z Forge 2. Could be a crazy set. It'd be pretty awesome though. But like I said, I didn't do anything with the 4s today. I'm gonna hit those because I really want to, and I think they're a really good looking, kind of super game improvement club. But again, I think they even combo up well with these, where you could do the 4 iron in that, and then the ZX5, ZX7s to kind of go with it. So, like I said, both irons really solid. Really impressed with both. I think the great thing, again, Are you going to take your ZX5s, dump them, and go grab the Mark IIs? I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening with both these. Is it something where if you're a person looking for a new set of irons, you've heard great things about the ZX7, ZX5, and you go try these, you are not going to be disappointed. They're going to perform. They're going to feel great, sound great, look really good. Everything that the last year's one was that maybe your friend had, or a buddy at the club, or a buddy you play with, or somebody in your league, or some idiot who has got a podcast who said they really like them. When you go try the new one, you're not going to be disappointed and say, "Oh man, these things stink now," and go have to try to find a set of the older ones. You can go get fit for the brand new one, still be really impressed. But I was super impressed with both in terms of, like I said, sound and feel. So a few numbers on it. Average carry, again, like I said, crazy how different these things were. I mean, in terms of or in terms of yardage, what kind of came out, but it is what it is. So the ZX5 was definitely longer. I averaged 158 yards with that, which again, this is kind of like a 170 club. So interesting that I was about 10 yards short, 12 yards short. And then the ZX7 came in at 155. So about 3 yards difference between the two, which isn't too bad. I'm not shocked at that. Like I said, the ZX5 definitely felt like it kind of jumped off the face and you got a little more distance out of it. So not shocked that it was a couple yards longer. And I think a lot of people will find that the 5 is probably a little bit longer, especially in the longer irons. Maybe when you get down to the 8-iron, 9-iron pitching weight, stuff like that, you probably won't notice as much. They tend to make those faces not quite as hot on the 5s. Might not notice as much, but I think with the longer irons, you'll see more of that speed come into play. And then when you get into spin between the two, really wasn't a huge difference either. About 100 RPM different for me. So you were basically looking at the high, for the ZX5, we were basically looking just a shade under 5,800, so 5,782. And then with the ZX7, I was at 5,920. So about 100 RPM different. Again, interesting. It'll be interesting to see when you put a ball that spins a little more in play what that difference comes out to be. But as you would expect, I mean, the ZX5 are going to spin a little bit less. Mileage is going to vary for every golfer. So where I saw about 100 and some, about 100 to 100 and some RPM, you may see 200 or 250 or whatever. I mean, everybody's a little bit different. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, ZX7 should spin a little bit more, and for me, they did. But again, would I notice that out on the course? Is it really going to change, the stopping power if I'm able to hit them both at the same apex and all that? No, they're gonna pretty much play the same. And again, two different shafts. Modus 120 versus KBS Light, so that will play into it. If you had the exact same shafts, maybe we'd notice a little more, a little less difference there. Hard to say. But again, these are kind of sent to us as media samples. I didn't get to choose, what shafts went in them. So spin, like I said, you basically 5782 to 5920, pretty darn close. Ball speed with the two. This is where the ZX5 again kind of showed up. It averaged about 112.8, where the ZX7 was about 110.5. So about 2 miles an hour better with the ZX5. A little bit that has to do with the club head speed. I did swing that one just a little bit faster. And again, lighter shaft, all that, but a little more ball speed with the ZX5. It didn't feel like I was swinging it faster, but it did feel like I was releasing it a little harder and a little more with the ZX5 and that lighter shaft, that softer shaft. It felt like it was kind of easy to turn over and hit it. So that probably was the feeling of the club of the ball speed. And then when you get to, and I just, I'm sitting there, I got all these things, and then I just jump out of, I was hitting back too much. So then if you get into, like I said, launch angle ended up being identical, 19.4 for both 6 irons. Again, kind of shocked at that, but like I said, I can look at the ZX5, and there's a little less there's a little variance between the lowest and highest. I think the lowest shot was like 18.3. Highest shot was 20.3, so only about 2 degrees difference between the lowest shot and the highest shot that I hit out of all those. And then if you go into the ZX7, I had stuff in the 17.8, 17.6, and then you go down to the other end, and it was a 21.8, 20.8, 20.0. There were a couple high ones, and then a lot of stuff averaging kind of around that 18, 19 area. So, like I said, if you went through and were able to take like a bigger sample size, I think there'd be a little more. They would kind of spread themselves out a little bit more, and I think on course, with a regular ball, they'll definitely see a little difference. Is 1 degree or so a huge difference? Not visually necessarily. You're not going to sit there and look and say, "Oh my God, the window is so much different." But for some players, that added, even degree can add a good amount of yardage, a good amount of backspin, some control. Sometimes one degree of launch can make a big difference in terms of do you hit that one better than another club. So, like I said, even though the averages end up being the same, I think when you look at, if you cancel out kind of the lows and the highs and you look at just kind of the average middle launch between the two irons, the ZX7s were definitely about a degree, maybe even a degree and a half lower, if you just kind of look at those launches. And then when you look at apex, again, ZX5 launch higher, which I think everybody would expect. That was a peak height at 93 feet, where the ZX7 was 89 feet. So, again, ZX5 a little bit easier to launch, easier to get up in the air. I think just overall it's going to be a little higher flying, lower spinning club that's going to go a little farther. And that's exactly what it is. I mean, that's what it should be. I mean, that's kind of what, I think if you were to listen to like the Srixon sales pitch, that's what it's going to be, like ZX5 is going to go a little higher, go a little farther, got a little more ball speed. There you go. And ZX7 is going to be great feel, precision distance control, and workability, working different shots. And I think that's exactly what it is. So both ZX5, ZX7, in terms of kind of an initial thoughts and review, super impressed with both. Kind of want to do a combo set with both. They just are really, really good. Like I said, again, and it's one of those things where I think everybody wants to know, is it better? If I get them out on course, I'll be able to get a little more feel for, are they truly better or whatever. But again, I don't think Srixon designed these to go after the person who has a set of ZX7 or ZX5 in their bag. I think they're going after the people who are looking to get a new set of irons, who've heard great things, want to jump into one of those irons. Here it is, slightly updated, and it's a great iron. But it's really solid. Really like both of them. And like I said, the combo set is kind of something that I'm interested in. So we'll see. Maybe we'll try to do a combo set with 5s and 7s. I would not be disappointed with that. So, Srixon ZX5, ZX7, if you go to, Srixon totally redid their site. So I would say, go to SrixonGolf.com. Totally different. It's like, just Google Srixon Golf and just go there. I'm not even going to try to read the thing. They were acquired by Dunlop, or they are partnered with Dunlop, whatever. But it's like us.dunlopsports.com/Srixon. Just Google Srixon Golf. Click the link, and you go there. And you can check out the irons. I know it's stupid to say it like that, but I'm not going to read the whole URL. I usually give the URL, not reading it today. And then there is the Z Forge 2, which I know everybody's super excited about. It's a beautiful iron. I mean, a lot of people I know were kind of giving the Srixon or the Mizuno old T-Zoid Pro kind of comparisons, but a really, really beautiful iron, really good looking. It's hard to say. It's one of those things when you pull a blade out and it's a good looking blade. It's just a club you want to hit. It's beautiful. You wish you could play it. You wish you had the game. I don't. Overall look, really good. Really love the look of it. From address, a little more rounded than ZX7. When you look at that high toe part of it, it's a little more rounded off. The actual toe almost looks like it has a little more radius. Again, not super, super compact. It's a little longer to heel to toe. Very minimal offset, and a much noticeably thinner top line than ZX7 and ZX5. So those are the things you're going to notice right away. Definitely narrower sole than those two. Still has the Tour V sole on it, which is great, but it is definitely narrower than the other two. And the back has this, beautiful chrome, and then this kind of like heavy media blasted type chrome to the sides, the toe and the heel section. Face and everything, face and hosel, kind of that same kind of, I don't know, it's like a satin chrome finish, something like that. I don't want to call it satin really. It's just kind of a kind of a gold satin, so there won't be any glare or anything like that. Score lines have like the laser milling, just like the ZX5, ZX7. Other than tech, that's about the only tech it's got. Other than that, it is a solid chunk of forged steel. So this one's 1020 carbon steel, forged, and basically runs off some. It does have progressive grooves, so I guess that would be on a technology. So basically, they'll make the grooves kind of match the head, so they can kind of dial in the spin rates for each iron. There again, letting you work the ball better, as well as control distances and stopping power on the green. These play off, pretty similar to 46-degree pitching wedge. When you get to the 7 iron, 33 degrees, so just a hair weaker than the ZX7s, and then the 4 iron is 23, so just a little bit weaker. These are definitely for blades a little bit on the stronger side, it seems. This one here, they sent in a 5 iron, which, 5 iron blade, I have no business hitting. But I took it out anyway, and I do say the feel, sound, very similar like the ZX7. Hitting crappy range balls even feels good. When you hit a dead center, it just has that kind of thud. There's just a touch of firmness and click because of the crappy ball. Putting a good ball on here again, I don't think it'll be anything but that, just kind of that whoosh, and then just that thud, and just the ball goes. Extremely soft. And actually pretty easy to launch. I didn't hit it on the monitor. I didn't take any numbers because, again, it was a 5 iron. But honestly, like looking at the windows, I was hitting it in, again, at that kind of target, or just right at that target. A little lower than ZX7 for probably majority of shots, but still easy to get in the air. It wasn't hitting crazy bullets by any means. And then I did hit a few kind of skanky low heel ones, and they actually got up in the air okay. Not as good as ZX7. They didn't feel like they jumped off the face as well either. So I know, say a 5 iron, which is usually a 180 club for me. This, who knows, a little weaker, probably be like 175. But those shots I know will come up kind of woefully short. Like, you just don't get away with those shots like I felt you would get away with on the ZX7. That, added tungsten and stuff like that they've gotten those. That little bit of tech that they pop in there is really helpful. This one here just doesn't have that. You could just tell the ball when you did miss it. Just didn't come off as hot, didn't come off as fast, and I unfortunately don't hit it close enough to the center enough to make these worthwhile. But I know the previous forged, everybody talked about being probably one of the most forgiving blades that was out there in the market that anybody had ever hit. I guess these are forgiving, but they didn't wow me in effect. And again, I'm not hitting it outdoors. I'm hitting it in a dome and hitting it on a launch monitor. But the numbers that would just drop off when you miss the center didn't make it feel like it was crazy forgiving. Now again, I probably just come off hitting ZX5, which you could hit it almost all over the face and still get away with it. These, you weren't able to do that, not at all. So in terms of, is it a forgiving blade? It could be. A better player going out and hitting it and kind of talking about their misses definitely would probably be a better review of this than me. But they're absolutely gorgeous. They look beautiful. I'd love to have a set like in my bag. They just look that good. I wish I had the game to pull it off. I don't. But they are great looking irons, and they do feel really good. They're really soft. I would love to hit, definitely would like to hit these with like a real ball and just see kind of how they play, because I bet they're really good. But overall, I didn't notice anything that blew me away in terms of forgiveness. Are they more forgiving than another blade? Maybe by, you're talking small percentages, potentially. But overall, again, if blade players think you're looking for more feel and distance control workability, and I think these things are going to offer that in spades. Kind of a little flatter, a little lower trajectory coming out. I'm going to assume they're going to spin a little more than ZX7s, and you should be able to kind of hit some pretty high towering shots, as well as kind of work it low, hit it flat, and then also right and left. So overall, really good. I love the shaping. I think it looks really great. Like I said, maybe if I put like the pitching wedge in my bag, I could maybe get away with that. Maybe the 9 iron, maybe the pitching wedge, and that'd be about it. But overall, really beautiful irons, and really good sound and feel. Like I said, I think hitting a real ball with these, you'll be really impressed with the sound and feel. But in terms of performance, again, notice the big thing for me, noticing that you got a decent drop off in terms of ball speed and even the feeling of the ball kind of getting off the face. It just didn't have that same speed when you missed it. So But overall, I'll give you that short little Z Forge 2 tidbit from when I hit a few. It's definitely a good blade, but it's a blade, so it's not something that I'm enamored with or have to find a way to make it fit my bag. As you guys know, I'm just blades are beautiful, they're great, they're just not for my bag. So that's all I've got this week. Again, thank you guys for doing the Q&A with me yesterday. Again, at Club Junkie Pod. If you check this out on YouTube, search Golf WX Radio. It'd be great if you wanted to subscribe there or whatever. I mean, I know it's just me sitting at a desk and waving a little club at the camera. But, and wherever you're listening to the podcast, please, if you could subscribe, whatever. I know it's kind of stupid and corny or whatever, but hey, man, it helps kind of our algorithm. It helps the stuff grow. And I do want to thank everybody. Last year was the biggest podcast year we'd ever had. The previous year was like 2021 when we had 5 shows. We had one, Monday through Friday we had a show. That was our biggest year, and we beat that this year or last year, which is pretty amazing with only 3 shows. So that is really, really cool and really, really special. And I feel humbled for it. I thank you guys all the time, and I really do appreciate all you guys who take the time out of your schedules, your busy days, whatever, and listen to podcasts and things like that. Really, really do appreciate it. It's really awesome, and like I said, I love chatting with you guys on Instagram and stuff like that. It's really cool, and I just love talking golf too. So thank you again. Hope you guys have a great weekend. I'm playing kind of single dad this weekend. My wife's going away with a friend, one of her girlfriends. They're going to go spot up, do whatever they do, which she greatly needs and deserves. So I probably won't be doing too much golfing this weekend. It'll be me and the little girl, and we'll be hanging out and doing some father-daughter time. So it'll be fun. I'm excited, and yeah. So if you get a chance, get out and play some golf, and if not, hey, we'll talk about it next week. So have a good weekend. We'll see you next week.